Episode 147, Red Leaf Retrocast, retroAnime, just you and me, Tori. JD and Tori, here we are. No hickey, computer issues. Do we just assume that someone shot his computer? Is that how bad it is?
No, it died. We were just hanging out and his computer just suddenly died. And something to do with the motherboard.
Oh.
And it's currently being repaired, but because he's from Brazil, and they currently have a bunch of holidays going on, that is probably going to take a while.
There's always something going on in his neck of the woods, for sure. Okay, so on this episode, Spring 2023 impressions should be on the shorter side. And then what could be a very confusing review over Dennou Coil, your pick for this episode today, Tori.
Yep.
Why Dennou Coil?
Dennou Coil is a show that I've heard about for many years. It's supposedly very good. It's won an award, the Station Award in 2008 for Best Dramatic Presentation. And it's just one of those like cult classics that people kept saying that you should watch, you need to watch the show, and I kept saying, yeah, I will. And here we are. And because we're doing this podcast, I was like, I finally have an excuse. Let's actually watch this. And it was a really bad time to pick it because, goddamn it, I am stressed as a motherfucker. I don't have time. I'm finishing up my bachelor degree, so I have literally negative free time at the basically falling asleep. Yeah, it's not great. It's not a good time.
So what you're saying is you are not playing golf 4 days a week like I am?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Couple
all
more
right.
months
Single bachelor life will come to you eventually.
Yeah, just give me another month or so, and I'll be. Then I'll too will be on the golf course.
So okay, Tori, we got a weird Dennou Coil review coming later in the show. What do you say we make this like short and sweet before another computer breaks on us?
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
So you've been stupid busy with not living the single bachelor life. I've been busy finishing up a very long 35-week bowling season and golfing 4 days a week. Lots of hobbies. Not enough video games in my life, but I did have time to watch kind of in the middle a lot of the spring anime that people might be interested in hearing just short thoughts about.
Mm-hmm.
And just so people get a little reminder, if you had the time, Tori, what kind of stuck out to you this season that you'd like to check out?
So the things that I wanted to check out from this season was one of them what's it called? Dead Mount Deathplay. I don't remember exactly why. I'm pretty sure it has to do with the who wrote it, right? Because this is the same guy. Yeah, it's the guy who wrote Bakano.
Oh.
It's based on a manga by the guy who wrote Bakano, so it's definitely not as well received as Bakano was, but
Do you have the English title by chance?
Dead Mount Deathplay. That doesn't get more English than that.
Or the Japanese title, maybe?
Dead Mount Deathplay.
Oh man, I can't find it on the seasonal thing. Is it like an OVA or something? Or am I just like looking over it?
No, it's a TV show. I mean, I could give it to you in
Japanese,
but it's literally written in katakana.
I found it.
It's literally written in katakana, so it still reads Dead Mount Deathplay.
All right, I got it. Okay. 745 on the My Anime list right now. Yeah, that's not the greatest of scores by their scale.
No, it is not. But, I figured that at worst, considering who's writing this, I figured at worst, it could at least be interesting.
Okay. And is that the kind of the only one, or do you have more?
No, it was also the Oshinoko, obviously, which I've been wanting to read the manga for that for a long time, but I never did. So now
Okay.
I need to watch the anime. But
Okay, I
then
have
heard
watched
they
that
dropped
one.
like a 60. Yeah, I heard it dropped like a 60-minute episode 1. And I was just like, I don't have time for that.
It was actually like
So that
closer to
was
90 minutes.
even worse. I don't have time for that either.
It was it was a straight up movie. The show's only going to be 11 episodes long, so that kind of makes up for, I guess, 2 or 3 that you'd normally see. But that first 90 minutes, what turns out to be all setup for the remaining like 10 episodes. In which, so for those that aren't aware, essentially a doctor and patient have a bond, and they are both, or at least the doctor in his case, becomes a big fan of a certain idol girl. And the patient of his, she dies, and shortly after that, he becomes the doctor of said idol that comes in. She is pregnant. She turns out to be having twins. One thing leads to another, and he gets murdered. And what happens is both him and the old patient of his become reincarnated as the idol's twins. So they retain all their memories, retain all their intelligence, like all that, but they still have the body of children, and they have to kind of play nice in a way. And over the course of those 90 minutes, or I guess 60 from there, is them kind of living the life of the children of this idol and kind of seeing her life in real time. And it's pretty damn dramatic and pretty good. A small twist is the doctor and ex-patient of his, they don't know who each other's past lives were. They never really come out and say it. So there's that aspect to it going on. They develop, of course, because they're both crazy idol fans, they naturally have this weird relationship with their so-called mother from the start. And plot twist is she dies. Okay, the idol dies. She gets murdered herself, and that first episode ends with the guy, the former doctor, now son of the idol. He vows revenge in order to find who was. He thinks someone was plotting her murder and set her up by giving the information of her whereabouts to a crazed fan that ends up stabbing her to death, more or less in front of them. So the second episode is basically a time lapse to when they're now in high school, and he's a totally changed person from his like 2-year-old self, if that makes any sense.
No way.
Yeah. And the daughter wants to be an idol really bad, following the footsteps, because she never, like, she was a bedridden hospital chick, so she never really got to live a life in the first place. And he has this crazed, like, obsession of protection around her. So he prevents her from trying to join the idol industry, etc., etc. And he develops a relationship with this, like, I'll call him an indie director, more or less, in order to kind of learn the industry and get an in on possibly who the father was, because that's who he believes was behind the murder. So there you go. It's extremely dramatic, maybe a little over the top at times. I'm kind of lost on the actual true persona of our main dude character, because he was already like this like 30, 40-year-old dude, right? And then reincarnated, keeps everything, and his mindset of trying to find the murderer kind of doesn't seem to match up with his personality, even if it was a bit scarred. I don't know. I definitely like it. Maybe it's a little over the top. I'm only a couple episodes in, so take that for what it's worth. I'll have to see how the rest of the series plays out, but Tori, I think you would vastly enjoy the show to an extent.
That's to an extent. Vastly enjoy this show, kinda.
Yeah.
No, I mean, yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. Like, I heard about the manga a long time ago, so I was really into it. But then I thought about reading it many times, but it kind of just never worked out like that. So yeah, I'm definitely going to watch it. I don't know if I'll be watching it when it airs because I don't have time, but I'm definitely going to catch up on that. That is just high on my to-do list. And I like the fact that it's being made by Doga Kobo as well. Like, I give Doga Kobo a lot of shit because a lot of the shit they make is not my kind of shit.
You can call it bad,
but I like their style. I like their style. No, I mean, yes, but that's just like the cutesy. I mean, I like some of the shit. Like New Game, love New Game. New Game was great.
New Game was pretty.
It's just
okay.
like, yeah,
fair
right.
enough.
So it's stuff like that. So it's not always my style, but they usually have pretty good animation. Their production of shows are usually pretty high. So I'm looking forward to see how they tackle this, because it's not their, at least from the outset. I don't know how it develops and how it continues, but at least from the outset, it doesn't exactly sound like the typical Doga Kobo show.
No, it certainly isn't. It's not. It's. I would say it's a top 3 show this season for sure, based on what I've seen. Who knows? Maybe
which is pretty good, considering the fact that there's a lot of mostly sequels, but good shows. The Demon Slayer's back, obviously. More Dr. Stone. Konosubarashi Sekai ni Bakuenwo, the Konosuba spin-off.
Yeah, I'll stop you there.
But no.
Yeah, I'll stop you there because I've seen those. I'm watching those 3 shows. So Demon Slayer, it's in the Samurai Sword Village. It's more Demon Slayer. You're introduced to a couple new characters, and there's a couple new upper demons with quirks. And it has its same kind of overdramatic, weird comedy in between the serious tone. Still, it's more Demon Slayer. It's exactly what you expect. I have seen a lot of criticism for it with its use of like CGI lately. So that I found that interesting. That's kind of what I've been able to gauge is a lot of hardcore fans more criticism of the show.
I mean, yeah, I feel like criticism of the CGI could pretty much always be there, because like I remember even back in like the first like Demon Slayer, it was like the show looked really good for the most part, but then there was every once in a while there was this one scene where they very clearly used CG, and it was like that was the most annoying part as well, because you had moments where they actually did CG well. And then you had moments where the CG suddenly just turned to absolute shit, and it's like, why?
Well, in this case, I can totally see, because it was jarring even to me, because I usually don't kind of care about that kind of stuff. But in this case, they're definitely ramped it up. I think quite a lot.
Yeah,
there's one in particular scene that's kind of, I saw it on Twitter, kind of going viral a little bit. Was the scene of this like demon toad thing in a void space. I'm just going, oh, even that looks bad.
Yeah. I mean, when you when you no longer get away with tax evasion, I guess, shit's hard.
Gotta get those hickey jokes in.
Exactly.
Since he's not here. Dr. Stone New World. So it made me realize very quickly that when I threw on episode 1 and saw a character I've never seen before, I go, did I miss a season? Because I like Dr. Stone. I wouldn't
be surprised.
It has, right, that is right up my alley. But but in this case, I'm like, it just goes right into it, and I'm going season 1. Yeah, okay, I'm in the right season. So then I usually been going on AniList or Anime Planet. I kind of stay away from Mal more often these days. So I go to Mal, and I see that there was a 1 hour special in between this season and the last to introduce this new character. So I'm like, ugh, kind of rolled my eyes. And I got through episode 1, and I go, okay, I know who the character is. I don't need to know anymore. I'm just not going to watch that special. But anyways, Dr. Stone is now setting up for the group to make a bunch of food that lasts a long time, and build a ship so they can go to essentially Argentina to find the source of the light that made them all stone.
Of course, it's Argentina.
I think it's Argentina. I think that's what they're doing. So they're gonna have to. It's clearly all set up to try to find the resources needed to make such a journey, and the trials and tribulations that'll probably be along that journey. I don't think I'm seeing that it's an 11 episode series, so I think this is all going to be set up for it rather than the act. I could see the season after this being the ship journey, and then the very last season being they've made it to Argentina or something.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably it, unless it's a very short thing, because...
I mean, they could easily time-lapse it for sure.
They could. I don't remember where they're at right now in the manga. The manga for Dr. Stone is obviously done. The original one? No, that's a one-shot for, the sequel. So yeah, the manga is finished, so... I wouldn't be surprised if they're probably just going to try to stretch it out, because that's what the anime industry likes doing right now. Whenever they adapt popular stuff that ends, it's like, well, we got to figure out how to make this last a lot longer.
That's true. More Dr. Stone. The Konosuba sequel, the one focused around Megumin. Spin-off sequel thing. It's not good.
Shocking.
Yeah, it's...
Wow, that's an almost 8... that's a 7.82 on Mal, you sure?
Yeah, well, I don't think it's good at all. It's... Without our two main characters, and it's just her, with a supporting cast that we kind of don't give a shit about, its comedy doesn't land with me, one bit. The wackiness of the little school and town that she's in is more comedy that doesn't land with me. I just don't think the show's very good at all. I'm 3 episodes in. I think I'm kind of done with it. You know what I did end up doing? I ended up watching all of season 1 of Konosuba again, and I went, there we go. That's way better.
Yeah, all right. So here's the thing, right? I specifically, when we were talking about this, I specifically targeted this show, and I said, I'm not watching this. And the reason why I'm not watching this is pretty much exactly what you said. I saw this shit coming from a mile away. I am not a Megumin fan. I have no interest in watching a show about Megumin. I know there's a lot of people that will, which is probably why this has such a high score.
That's true.
They probably love this shit because it's more Megumin, but as somebody who doesn't care about her, why would I watch this? This gives me nothing.
If there was, okay, so if the comedy was landing, it'd be one thing, and if it wasn't episodic on top of it, I think that would be a mass improvement. But Tori, I'm here to say you were absolutely right, and I'm confirming your thoughts.
Yep, not surprised. I've been watching anime for a while now. I know how these things work.
How long have you been doing an anime podcast on top of it?
Since 2017.
Yeah,
God damn it. Right. Oh, man. Yeah.
Does that make you feel terrible?
Dude, every day makes me feel terrible.
Yeah, of course. All right, what else you got?
That's just where I'm at right now. The last thing that I was thinking of watching was, not the last thing. We have Mahotsuka no Yome, or Ancient Magus Bride, Season 2.
Yep.
I really liked the first season, so of course I'm going to watch the second season at some point.
And so I will say, I was immediately lost when I started watching this because I didn't realize how much I had forgotten of the first season.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Yeah.
And I'm like, when the season? Dude, it was like when we started this podcast, when the first season came out.
Yep. It started in 2017 and ended early 2018. It has been a long time. That's why when I saw that this was getting a second season, I was kind of surprised because I was like, wait, hold on. Really? Now? This show was popular. Why did it take so long? But yeah, so I figured it was just never happening. But yeah, I'm still going to watch it. Maybe I'll rewatch the first season before I watch it, but I'm definitely watching it. I really enjoyed the first season of Mahoutsuka no Yome, and I mean, I can't see myself not enjoying the second season. Is it going to be as good? I don't know, but we'll see. It'll be shorter, 12 episodes only, so.
Well, it's probably too core. It's probably what they're doing.
Probably, but for now, I don't think anything has been confirmed. I think they've just said a 12-episode season. Yeah, nothing confirmed.
Yeah, so I do recommend like really not rewatching the show, but reinforming yourself of like what the fuck happened, because I totally
watched the show. The first season is good.
Well, yeah, I that did cross my mind, but I was like, oh, it's also like 26 episodes. I gotta watch this show called Dennou Coil first. Ugh. But yeah, like I had forgotten like even a lot of the most basic things, like why her arm is cursed and all that, and what does that mean?
Yeah.
And like, man. But as soon as I kind of read through a lot of it, I go, okay, all right. I think I'm caught up enough, because I do remember her personality, what she's like, the struggles. Skull Dude.
Skull Dude,
yeah. Elias. So the second season is her now in school, and she's learning sorcery and the like, and the first few episodes are very much in that same tone that we like Agent Magus Bride to be. Chisei is kind of... You see a development in her personality and her now essentially talking with people. And hopefully I didn't cut out too bad there.
Definitely did, but that's okay. Just keep going.
But the point is, if you liked, I would say if you liked the first season and liked all those episodes, it carries over all of the tonal shifts and settings that we know Ancient Magus Bride to be for the second season. So I'm going to definitely continue watching this. It's surprisingly enough, as much as I like this, it's still probably in the number 4 spot for my favorite of the season so far.
That sounds about right.
Okay, so then two shows. Yeah. There's 4 other shows I've been watching. I'm not watching Osama Ranking, and actually that's getting kind of criticized this season for not like doing much. I found surprising.
Yeah, I mean, consider the fact how much people liked the first season. Yeah, that is surprising.
Yeah, it's got a...
I don't even see it on the list. Where is it?
No, it's got a 746. It's right next to your Dead Mount Death Play.
Oh, there it is. Wow. Yeah. Man. How the mighty have fallen.
The mighty has fallen, yeah. And it's by Wit Studio, the Ancient Magus Bride studio. But Studio Kafka is now... Is that how you pronounce that? Kafka? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. I don't know how else you would.
Okay, so a show I don't recommend is Mashle, or however you pronounce that.
Mashle.
I find it Mashle. It's A1. It's kind of funny, but the main character is so incredibly stupid. It's to the point of irritation, and the comedy that ensues around him, it's a lot of hit and miss. It's a guy who can't use magic in a magic world, and he goes to school and he's trying to be the best.
But his name is Mash Burn Dead.
I mean, the names are funny. I like it. But
and that's about it.
Yeah, he's a straight up like wacky jock, which is kind of funny. Anyways, don't watch that show. It's not good. 764 on Mal as well.
That's a shit score.
Yeah. It's better than Osama Ranking. Which kind of speaks.
God.
Another show that I tried out and dropped was I got a cheat skill in Another World. It's a fat kid who grandpa has a doorway to another world, and he when he levels up, it also affects his abilities in the real world. Just kind of interesting. So overnight, because he spent like a week in, I think it was like during Golden Week or something, he spends a week in the other world, and he levels up a bunch, and it increases all his like physical stats and et cetera, et cetera. And so when he finally goes back to the real world, it like physically alters him to match now his physical stats in the other world. So now he becomes this like real handsome, lanky guy that's got like 8-pack abs. So I was like, okay, I kind of like that. It's funny. And from there, it kind of like he's incredibly bullied. Like the first scene is him getting the shit kicked out of him, like to the point where he might be dead. And the police officer comes over and he's like, "Dude, you okay?" And he just kind of walks home crying. It's like, "Oh my god."
Typical bully stuff.
Yeah, typical
Nothing
bully
to
stuff.
worry
Like
about.
even his two younger siblings beat the shit out of him and torment him. I was like, what a nice life he has.
Yeah.
But as soon as he becomes handsome and athletic, all of a sudden everything's better around him. So the moral of the story is work out, get plastic surgery, and you will be loved by those around you.
I was about to say, I think the moral of the story is get trapped in another world and then suddenly just become handsome. Because, yeah.
Yeah, and
Would you love it if it was convenient like that?
It would be nice, but yeah, it's got harem elements. I don't know. It's not.
Shocking.
It's not good. It's got a 713 on Mal. Just roll with it.
It's by the fucking Berserk studio, the new one.
Yeah, the main character even
Berserk.
fucking looks like him a little bit.
Is it fully CG?
There's a lot of CG parts. Yes.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's not great. It's definitely like a guilty pleasure of ass is a good way to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so 2 good shows I do recommend. One is Hell's Paradise. So finding the elixir of life on this weird island called Paradise. That's what they kind of dub it. It's a bunch of criminals that if they bring back the elixir, they will be pardoned. But all these people are insane, so they'll probably like commit murder and shit again, and then they'll just be recaught or hunted. But anyways, each assassin or criminal is accompanied by an executioner. Okay, so our main character is Gabimaru, and he's accompanied by this hot sword chick. Okay, and they each have their own inner conflict. Gabimaru grew up from day one as a cold-hearted assassin, and then because he was the best assassin of the village, he gets the chief's daughter, who was like severely burned on the face, to prevent her from being sought out by men or something. But she's given to him, and she essentially changes his personality to actually like know what emotion and compassion and those kinds of things are. And by the time he kind of wants to like go off and live a normal life and stop being an assassin, he's basically set up by the village to get fucked. Okay. So he gets caught, and if he wants to go back to his wife and live a life of peace, he has to go find this elixir, and that's what the conclusion is. But he still fights his own emotions because he's still an assassin at the end of the day. Meanwhile, the sword chick that's with him, her inner conflict is how can she kind of be an executioner and live with the kind of guilt of killing another person, because she lives a very normal life, more or less, as an executioner could. So they both go to this island, and the island has just an incredible amount of mystery to it and death that surrounds it. From poisonous bugs that will immediately inject you with a poison that will make you become a plant, massive like insects and stuff that will strip your body down to the bone. Where it gets stupid weird is in that like 3rd episode where they all of a sudden have to start fighting these massive religious figured monstrosities of monsters. Lots of Buddhist themes to it, lots of Hindu themes. That when it gets to that point, there a lot of CG cuts in, a lot of weird artistic choices are thrown in there, especially in the backgrounds to the characters. Lots of colors. It's almost like you're watching a drug trip. It's very weird, but the action's good. The motivations of all the characters fit to what they're going for. Where, hey, if I kill all the other assassins, then I can look for the elixir without worry, except the part where the island wants to kill you. I like the characters. I like all the characters in the show so far. The religious tones, I don't know if it fits the show. I'm going to give it a try, but my first impression was that's kind of a step too far. But we'll see. It's very good. It has an 8.42 on Mal, so it's one of the top shows of the year so far. What do you think, Tori?
Mm-hmm. Nothing.
Got no thoughts. Okay.
Absolutely nothing. No.
I recommend it, but keep it at an arm's length because I'm not sure those religious tones are going to match what the show initially had going for it. Fair enough?
I guess. I'm
Okay.
not watching it. So.
All right, so I want to get the English title of this last one I'm going to mention, and I think this is a must-watch show of the season so far. Okay. It is called Heavenly Delusion, or Tengoku Daimakyo. Daimakyo. Okay?
Tengoku Daimakyo. Yeah.
All right. So, this show is very interesting. Heavenly Delusion is about a post-apocalyptic world in which some shit went down. We don't quite know what it is, but the more, with each and every episode, you kind of start gaining more, not insight exactly, because it's not straight up telling you, but it's teasing and hinting at this is why this all went down. So on one side of the show, there's two characters. There's a girl and a guy, and they're trying to find some place called heaven. They're just looking for any and all clues. They think that this place is where a certain doctor and other guy. Okay, you don't know why, but they're searching for him, and they're possibly at a place known as heaven. Who knows what that means? Okay, and they're traveling through the terrible parts of Japan that has now been not overrun, so to say, but there's a lot of creatures called man-eaters. And what they do is they have each creature has a unique ability and power and trait, along with the part where they want to assimilate with humans. Okay, they want to absorb them. That is their way to eat. Very weird creatures, very rad. How you fight them is pretty wacky. And so these two characters are going place to place, and they're meeting other people, survivors of the world, and the man-eaters that they fight along the way. On the other side, there is a place that looks and feels like a laboratory where they're raising children with unique aspects, I guess is a way to put it. They're not teaching them anything along the lines of things like sex or what sex is, what growing up is. They're just kind of teaching them math and science and really just keeping things very bare bones like that. And then they kind of study these children, these scientists, they study these children and how they react. Well, there's a point in there where one of the characters slips into we'll call it zone of the lab that they're not supposed to go to, and we come across these infantile baby-looking creatures that happen to have the same face as the man-eaters. And that's your first kind of clue that, oh, maybe this is a flashback or something. You kind of got that feeling from the start, but never quite confirmed it or teased it. And there's also this AI involved in the facility that might have their own kind of AI implications. One of the big twists in the show is in episode, I think it's 2 or 3, where the girl character, she's 20, 21 or something, and the guy comes out and says he's in love with her, he wants to bang her, wants to do things to her, Tori. Okay?
Oh no.
Oh yeah. So there's a lot of sexual themes in the show. She comes out and says, "Don't freak out, but I'm actually a guy inside. I may look and feel like a girl, but I'm actually a guy." So, and then the episode kind of ends, and you go, and I'm thinking, I kind of roll my eyes a little bit, and I go, all right, it doesn't really bother me, but I thought it was kind of cheesy how they just kind of brought it up, and I'm like, okay, so we got a transgender type character here. That's fine. That's all well and good. Whatever. Well, no. In another episode, you are introduced to her past, and she has a brother, and they're really close, and the brother comes across a man-eater, and he's getting absorbed in half, from the legs up, essentially, and she pulls him out of the man-eater, and half his body's missing. Okay, waist down, he's totally fucked. He's got no arms either. They were sucked in with, so he's just a head and body essentially. And so she's all fucked up, and then does she get knocked out by the man-eaters? I forget, but something happens, and she awakes, and it's the brother freaking out because he's in his sister's body now. At least that's what he thinks, or she thinks. Okay? So he thinks the doctor did something to combine the two of them so they both survive in a weird way. Something along the lines of maybe put the boy's brain in the girl's body. That's what's implied. Or she's just fucking crazy. And she took on the personality of the brother. I think that's pretty cool. I think it can go either way. I think the story setup and the two character paths are pretty cool. One of the more unique things I've seen this season. I'm very into this show.
It sounds interesting. It's got a good score as well. The funny thing for me is just reading the synopsis. The first thing that's just because of the first line. The first thing that struck me about this was within the safety of the walls. I'm Attack on Titan. But then the more I read about it, and the more you talked about it, I'm like, this sounds kind of similar, at least to the start of the premise of The Promised Neverland.
Kinda, yeah. Yeah, you definitely get that feel, but I think a big difference is the fact that we have this other story going around with these two other characters. And
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's more so the general premise, because Promised Neverland also changes a lot about what it's actually about. But just right off the bat, it was I've seen this show before, and I was trying to figure out what the name of the show was. And I was oh yeah, right, Promised Neverland. Man, I hope this show doesn't end up going the same way.
Yeah, I really hope so too. It's going to be 13 episodes. I could see this going on quite a while, or just the 13 episodes. I think that's kind of a good place to be in, especially in this modern scape. The main girl character is super interesting because of the twists and turns she's already taken all in these first just beginning episodes. And what does that mean? What does that mean to the overall plot? Does that mean anything to do with the lab? The mystery in the show and how they're executing it. And it also has an element of episodic feel to kind of keep the monotony from continuing like that. So I think this is a home run of a show. This is my favorite of the season. It's not even close. I guess it's a big recommendation for me to check it out.
This was going to be very interesting to keep watching.
Yes.
Because the anime is regarded higher than the manga right now.
Oh.
And I see a lot of that has to do with people don't like where the manga starts going and the way they sort of portray things. So that's one thing that's going to be very curious, if they stick closely to the manga, if they're going to change stuff up. It's not a badly reviewed manga, it's not that, but the anime has an 8.01 mal, and the manga has a 7.67.
Let's see. I'm going to click on the manga here. How long is it? It is... Oh, it's still going.
Oh, yeah. It's been going since 2018.
Okay. All right, so they got some material to work with.
So, yeah. I wonder what I'm seeing as well, where people are sort of talking about as well. It makes me wonder, is the show going to stop at the point where people got tired of it? That might be a thing as well.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It could be interesting. Could be interesting to see see if this show is more highly regarded than the manga is. It's not very often that happens.
Not at all. I mean, it's by Production IG, which I'm a fan of them and the work they do. It's on
sometimes.
Yeah, the show's on Hulu. It's on Disney Plus, I believe. If you're in the West and you have access to those things, one of the few shows not on Crunchyroll. So, yeah, Tori, if I was to recommend one show, it'd be actually that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it sounds interesting. I might give it a look, see if I like before bed or something like that, just to see what it's all about. It sounds interesting. Obviously, a little apprehensive about about some of the things I saw about regarding the manga, but I mean,
Ooh.
Who knows?
Okay,
who knows? It's not bad. It's not bad. It's kind of the usual. I didn't read any reviews or anything like that. I just kind of skimmed it, and it's a lot of the same things. Like then the fan service starts overtaking and stuff like that, and it's like, okay, yeah, I've heard that argument a lot of times. I don't know how much. I don't know how much of an impact that will actually have on the story or anything. And maybe there's better points. I don't know. I didn't read any, but yeah, it could be interesting to see, because, like, again, it definitely sounds like an interesting premise, but kind of it is the same thing. I had that thought instantly the moment I sort of clued in on The Promised Neverland as well. It's like, I really just hope this isn't like a similar case, which, like, it starts out with such an interesting premise, and it's like, oh, they could go so many ways with this, and then they completely change everything about the show, and it's like, okay, this is no longer enjoyable. This is just bad.
Well, it's I'll just leave it at this last comment, but it's interesting that you bring up like fan service type stuff, but they establish very early a lot of sexual themes and like kind of discovering maturity and that kind of deal. And
no, that's what I mean, right? That's my point. It's like I see a lot of people who are writing this or are complaining about it are sort of highlighting the fan service or the sudden emergence of heavy fan service, and I'm just like, I mean, I've seen that argument in many shows, and sometimes I agree, sometimes it is off-putting, but other times it's like, well, I mean, what do you expect? You know, it's like going into To Love Ru and complaining that there's too much fan service. It's like, right, I mean, yeah. What did you expect? Like, hello?
Okay. All right, that's your season preview of spring 2023. Let's jam.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's jam.
Okay, Tori, Dennou Coil.
Me, Dennou Coil.
So what's up with Dennou Coil?
So Dennou Coil is a show from 2007. It's made by Madhouse. You may have heard of Madhouse before. They have done
we
some things.
We have reviewed a couple of those shows for sure.
A couple of shows. I mean, it's like, yeah, slightly above average studio, I'd say. You know, something like. Especially they had their time. They had their time where they were like, okay, and yeah, Dennou Coil is one of those shows that has been a bit of a cult classic with anime fans for a long time. Very highly regarded. People often say it's one of those go-to anime you should watch. At least they used to. You don't really hear it talked about very much anymore. So it definitely seems like it fell out of a lot of people's radar, and as it got older, and that happens. It's also an award-winning show.
You know what's funny? When we first started talking to each other that must have been what, like 2014, 2015?
Yeah, probably around there. That sounds right.
I remember a lot of people would recommend Dennou Coil.
Yeah,
they would always bring it up. It was in that kind of Madhouse recommendation section all the time.
The Madhouse recommendation. If you went on YouTube and you saw like the fucking like top 10 most obscure anime you need to watch, Dennou Coil was always on the list.
You're right. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. That's another thing. And yeah, I'm a little more outside of that like fandom scope these days for sure. But even then, like. I like to go along with, especially on a seasonal basis, of what's a lot of people watching, what are they recommending. I get a kick out of kind of clicking on, I'm wanting to get into older anime. What should I watch? And it's like anime from 2015 these days that people are recommending.
Yeah.
So maybe
What's
it's
a good old classic? Well, you see, there was a show that came out in 2020.
Yeah, did you see the original Konosuba? that's kind of what I see more often nowadays. Which is a great time because the new sequel's coming out. I did this recently, but in terms, maybe that's an indication of just enough time has gone on where people have just moved on from recommending a show like this from that era. If it's not like a Death Note, because that was 2006, or a shonen of that time, or an action show. It's these kind of slice of life. What would be another genre? Seinen, those kinds of shows. Just they kind of get more forgotten about than most.
Well, I mean, yeah, but it makes sense, right? Because this was always a show that sort of flew under the radar. I say flew under the radar. Like almost 150,000 people in Mal alone has watched this show. It's not that unknown, but like it's definitely not among the watch numbers. And definitely as time goes on, sort of people went on because it's like, okay, as it is with anything, it's like once something has been recommended enough, and basically everybody said like, oh, you should watch this. It's like, okay, recommending Dennou Coil is no longer cool, right? Because I feel like everybody that wants to watch this has watched this at this point, and I was not one of them. I wanted to watch it, but I just never found the time to actually do it, and kept putting it off. And but it has always sort of sat in the back of my mind. It's like I need to watch this. Like I've seen clips from this. I've seen like animated clips from it, like Sakuga clips, and from like the opening and from stuff for this episode. And I was like, there's something about the style. It looks cool, which is kind of weird to say because there's a bunch of kids and kind of derpy-faced kids at that as well. But like everybody's wearing glasses, shit like that. But it's like there's something about like the presentation that's just it feels really cool. And then knowing that it actually also won an award in 2008 for best dramatic presentation, and I'm like, yeah, having watched this, I can sort of understand why. We can discuss whether or not I think it's the best at dramatic presentation, but like it's definitely later on in the show. I definitely think there's moments where it comes up where it's like, because not to spoil too much about the show, but one of the things that you will notice with this show, which kind of coincides with a lot of shows from this time, is there's a very big sort of lull point early on.
Oh my god,
which isn't very interesting. However, when you get into the later sections of the show, you sort of understand why a lot of these things were still necessary to keep in, because it's like they are relevant for what is going to happen and what is going to be the big plot points. It just, it feels very slow at first.
Yeah. I mean, you talked about as soon as you mentioned that lull period, that's where I was just like, I don't understand what's going on. I don't get it.
Yeah.
What are we doing? I feel like I'm wasting my time. I don't see the point to any of this. And
I feel like that's also kind of what hindered like its popularity, why it never really blew up. Because I feel like a lot of people probably just did put on an episode or two of this. I was like, nah, not interested.
Yeah, it wasn't until, what would you say, like episode 10, maybe 12, when something finally clicks even a little bit, and you go, oh, okay.
Yeah, when you start sort of narrow, because at first it's like you're sort of introduced to a fairly big cast of characters, but it's when they sort of really start narrowing down their roles and who are the most important characters and what exactly you start to see more of a main goal, like what exactly are they working towards, what is happening here, and that's when things start to get a lot more interesting. That's that is when you sort of, the show kind of starts getting into its own, in my opinion, and that's where it shows its strength. And just in general as well, I think it's it's definitely very relevant for right now, considering the fact that like this show is all about AR technology, AR glasses, a world where the internet is ingrained in society as anything else. Like people are forgetting, kids are literally forgetting what it's like being in the real world and touching real objects because they don't need to. Well, I mean they need to, but like they have so much, they have shit built directly into their glasses that they wear all the time. So, they're interacting with a bunch of shit that isn't even real and it's completely normal. And I feel like watching a lot of that, I'm like, man, that feels way too real right now. Because I can absolutely see this being a thing in the future where everybody's just walking around with like AR technology on them.
I mean, that was what Google Glass was essentially.
It was.
That was the
But
idea behind it.
We're not at this stage. Not yet.
We're not there yet, yeah.
Probably at some point.
Okay, so I'll just read the synopsis real quick. Dennou Coil came out spring 2007. Studio Madhouse, as you said. In the near future, augmented reality has become a key part of daily life. Gentle middle school girl named Yasuko Okanogi and her family have just moved to Daikoku City, despite rumors of people disappearing. That is very important to know.
That is very important to know.
There, her grandmother, nicknamed Megaba, runs a shop called Magasia that specializes in illegal tools which interact with parts of the virtual world. So essentially, accessories for your Google Glass.
Yep, and I love that they call it Dagashi stores, basically candy stores.
Yeah, right. So Megaba also hosts an unofficial detective agency called Coil. Also important to know. A group of children around Yasako's age who find and handle corruption of the virtual world. So your Google Glass has a virus, essentially. Yasuko gets involved with the group when Fumi Hashimoto, a playful member of Coil, helps rescue her cyber dog. So you got your Tamagotchi in your Google Glass.
Yeah, I was just about to say your Tamagotchi. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Those are also things, yes.
Yeah, gets trapped in the virtual space while chasing a mysterious virus. A mobile one.
Illegal
virus. Also investigating these corruptions and viruses is an abrasive hacker named Yuko, not to be confused with our main character Yasuko's nickname, who the others take to calling Isako. So you have Yasuko and Isako. This isn't confusing at all, I'm sure. Nope. Can the group Coil discover the truths behind the mysterious viruses and corruption in their Google Glass, but at what cost? So essentially their Google Glass is discovered to have, I guess, the viruses open a doorway into the virtual world. Is that my understanding?
So basically, you have this you have like the AR generated world, right?
Right.
Which is based on the new world, the new implementation, which is patched on top of the old one, and corruption keeps occurring. They need to sort of suppress the old sort of version of it, which is why you have the bots running around, the Bokusachi bots that are running around and sort of patching up the corrupted areas and shit like that. They're also funny because they keep chasing children around, because that's just what we love in this. We love bullying little kids.
Well, children are small corruptive devices, for sure.
They absolutely are. Yeah, no, they've got their targets right. And it's sort of like, we have basically a bunch of like kid hackers, and like, I mean, we can start going through some of the fucking things, because there is a lot. So I'm just looking on Wiki right now, right? Obviously talked about the Dennou Coil, which is a phenomenon in which your cyber body detaches from your real body. That's a key plot point for later on in the show, not so much in the beginning. The Dennou glasses are the cyber glasses. Those are your Google glasses, your AI technology. Dennou Space is basically the world, the society, the AR world. Dennou Navi, that's a navigation system for self-driving cars, which is also important for a plot point regarding a girl who died in a car accident, which was not deemed a car accident. It was deemed her negligence, because obviously these self-driving cars are flawless and can make no mistake.
Correct.
Therefore, if somebody died in it, that is their fault.
Technology is perfect. Humans are not.
Technology is perfect. Yep. Dennou Materials, which is basically all sorts of materials, everything you see that is real but isn't real in these Dennou spaces. Dennou Pets, those are Dagdenske, which is the dog. Those are, your Tamagotchi. Illegal Dennou object software, the Search Metons, Bokusachi, and Search Meton 2.0. Illegals, those are black Dennou creatures, which is like, those are the quote-unquote viruses. They are sort of remnants of data of things that used to be, I guess, is a good way to explain them. You have nulls, which is like it's also a illegal in the sense of black Dennou creature, but they are way older from like the alpha times, I guess, and they also serve a purpose to the end of the story. We have Coil's node, which is an experimental Dennou life form with the ability to connect to the C domain created by Coils. This is the sort of shit that you need to watch in order to even begin to understand. Because
all right, so there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of shit. They got currency in this that can be mined.
Currency, meta bugs, Kira bugs, meta tags, coil tags, code formula. Anything else? What is it? There was one thing I was looking for, which is the hold on, let me look it up. I don't think it comes up here. It's the encoder, an encoder, which is what Isako is, for example. Basically somebody who breaks code and infrastructure in the virtual world.
Anyways, where I get lost in the show, both kind of in the understanding, not so much of the plot, like I get that. It's really like the tone and the purpose of the show. Like I just don't connect with it in any way, and I also don't understand it in that aspect. Can you enlighten me onto maybe why I felt that way?
I think that is very difficult. So, like, this show, like I said, it sort of comes in multiple parts. You sort of have this setup for everything, which is, I think, is what they do a bad job of, mostly because I feel like there's a lack of understanding of its own setting.
Right.
We just listed a whole bunch of shit that sounds slightly like, if you deal with a lot of technology and stuff like that, like you might recognize some of the terms. You might it definitely helps with an understanding of what it is. But when you see it in action, it's like, this is a fantasy, right? So this is a fantasy application of all of these things. They don't work the way you think they should, and it doesn't act on anything like that. It is literally, I guess you could say, like JD, you said, the like corrupted spaces and whatnot. Like you were like, it's like another world, and I mean, not really, but kind of.
Yeah, it's not really. So it's not really exactly clear.
Yeah, so it's like, but I mean, it's a fair point. It is another world. That's how they treat it. But like, not really, because it's not real, right? That's why it's like, whenever we see them enter these spaces, like they're never in there, kind of, right? The only thing that really go in is like cyber pets and shit like that, and other like data, which is also why you have the Dennou Coil separating of the cyber body from the human body,
right?
Which basically is treated like losing your soul, and they can go into these spaces and sort of traverse it, because it's like, what's it, like the plot point about a space. One of them was a space created, without spoiling too much for now, space created to heal someone. So it's like it's like a paradise, sort of, in order to try to heal someone's broken mind, or to try to help them sort of deal with certain things. And I'm being intentionally vague here, but yeah, right. So it's like you can't really be there physically, but that kind of is illustrated by the point that like, these things look really fucked up when you see like their body gets separated from their real body, or their virtual body gets separated from their real body, and then the real body just becomes like a black mass that says no data. But as soon as they take off their glasses, there's nothing wrong. They're just sleeping, right? There's nothing to them. They're not deceased. They don't have any diseases. They're not dying. But,
right. The only thing you lose is your all you do is lose your data to be in that space, which is why when they start getting corrupted, or when they start getting, I don't know, shot by the Searchies, or something's happening to them, they have to use their many different types of currency to kind of buy back their data. In a weird sense, it heals them.
Yeah, or use the meta tags, which also prevents that from happening.
Right.
Different kinds of meta tags, regular meta tags, black meta tags. There's a there's a lot of stuff. It's a complicated show, which is why I find it kind of funny that this is an all ages show, also made for children.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I'd love to see the child that's into. I'd love to see the child that's into this.
Well, I mean, maybe if you showed this today, maybe children would actually kind of vibe with it more and understand it more.
I think there would definitely be a more general understanding because AR technology and stuff like that is definitely more easier to comprehend now. But yeah, I still think it's like I still think the two things that shoots it in his foot is the fact that it's kind of boring.
Yes, it's very boring.
It's
I did not enjoy the show at all.
And then it just kind of goes from there. I did not enjoy the show very much either up until a point. I enjoyed the middle and end parts when you sort of get the actual. You start because at first as the antagonist in a way, but it's very obvious quite early on that she isn't really an antagonist in that sense. Yes, she tried to steal Yasako's dog and put an illegal inside of it for reasons, because they sort of illegals wants to sort of take on a cyber body, a modern cyber body, and sort of devour it and take over, but corrupting it. And sort of she wants to do that because she wants to like produce these things that she can absorb. But so that's kind of where it starts, and we learn about this plot about Yonyo Nissan for 3, which is this mysterious person that Yasako knows for some reason, and we learn is Yuko's brother later on in the show.
Right.
And she is trying to sort of get him back because he is a victim of this of having his cyber body removed from his real body. Or at least that's what she thinks. There's another plot twist in regards to that. She may just be getting used. And there's a lot of twists and turns in this show, and that's why it's like it starts out really, really slow and really boring, but by the end it becomes very hectic. There's a lot of stuff going on. A lot of different plot points comes on. New characters are coming out the woodwork and involving themselves in the story. Like there's just a lot happening here.
Yeah, so for me to kind of have my thoughts consolidated more, I agree. The middle portion, that like episode 10 to 13, 14 range, that's where I probably enjoyed the show the most because things started clicking, and then it does another. Then it just seems to get disjointed because especially those last 6 to 7 episodes. Every episode is another, it was mine. It was this person. Oh, let me introduce you to this person. I'm going, I don't know. Why?
A lot of characters come out the woodwork, and I feel like that's, again, a lot of it is just they're necessary to explain things, because, like, here's the biggest issue I have with the show. A lot of the reason why things are a mystery is because none of the characters that were involved in this story from the beginning remembers what happened. We have, obviously, some of it can make sense, like Yasako and Isako, they were kids, they were really young, they don't remember a lot of shit that happened at that point. That's fine. And then we have Megabot, the grandmother. She lost her memory 4 years ago in an incident, which never actually was explained what that incident was. It's implied, but it's not that. And then, we have the whole, like, detective club. Like, we know there's a lot of characters we'd never met. We know we have some of the higher numbers on the list, but there's a lot of characters that are missing. We don't know what they are, but that's fine. They're former members, But then, of course, they come back later, and it's there's a lot of that. There's a lot of like, aha, look at this. They were in front of you the entire time, and it's like, I mean, they technically weren't. Like, we saw that one. It's a lot of gap. I don't remember. He's been in the background in a couple of episodes, but like mostly just sort of coming out and be like, I see, and then he disappears into the darkness. So we go on, it's like, that's not really introducing a character. Like, yes,
Right.
I understand that you want me to pay attention to him, because obviously, why else would you show him? But like, I don't know who that is. And the fact that he looks like his own little brother as well also doesn't make it any easier. Because at first I was like, is that like the same guy? It's like, no, it isn't. That's like, why do they look the same, similar? Are they related? Bam, bam, bam. Yes, they are. It's like, I mean, like it's clever, kind of, but I think it needed a little bit more marinating.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that aspect of it. But I just didn't connect with the show at all. That was my biggest gripe with it. I thought the story never really made sense, and a lot of the questions or implied teasing or things like the two brothers, like you just mentioned. By the time they just went, oh yeah, it's actually this, and you go, oh, okay, you stopped caring about that a while ago.
I definitely didn't. I thought it was interesting, but I mean, it went predictable in a lot of places. Like when they were like, and then we have like the big bad, which is the fucking like company that produced this shit, and I just rolled my eyes to them.
Yeah,
like,
evil corporation actually is the problem.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Although I will give them respect for one thing.
Google bad. I got
the fact that they actually dialed that shit back in the sense that I was like, okay, actually, it's not the company itself that's like the bad guy. It's the fact that this company is so fucking huge now, and people have like invaded it, and we have like what is his name? I forget his name.
Who, Kenichi?
Nekome, Sosuke Nekome. The older brother, the guy, the sort of main quote unquote villain, I guess, in the end.
Yeah.
Like the way like he now works for them in a way, but he's like, they have that like their own like section of people that are like they all grudges, so they want to show people that like, oh, these AR glasses are bad, the internet is awful, and how do we do this?
Right.
By making a bunch of children faint. It's like, I mean, yeah, that would be awful. Like that's, I mean, talk about childish villain when your primary school little brother basically says like, dude, you're fucked up. You're not trying to fucking showcase our father's work. You're basically just bullying a bunch of little kids. And he's like, huh? What? No, never. Am I? The show is, I don't know, I think the show is definitely interesting. But like I said, I want to rewatch this show at some point. I really do. And see if I can capture sort of the essence of the show a lot more. Because I feel like this was a bad time for me to watch it. I'm stressed and struggling to pay attention for a lot of the time. So I definitely want to see if it's like, if I rewatch it, if I will still think it's good, or if I will think it's way worse than a rewatch. But that'll be sometime in the future.
So in the end, I didn't really like the show very much. It's I can see why it's considered a cult classic for sure. It's like that generation's Serial Experiments Lane in a weird way. Obviously,
kind of.
completely different tonal factors to it.
Very different tone. And I mean, in that sense as well, this is, while not as prevalent, this is still based on technology that already existed. So.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And a very rudimentary understanding of how these things actually work. But I mean, again, it's definitely an interesting concept, right? It's something.
Oh, for sure.
It's actually something that I would love to see them try again now, or like in the near future. Just be like, okay, yeah, so let's get like a full on AR technology world. Just see how they want to handle it now. And then look back at the show and see the difference.
Yeah. Because I mentioned that earlier, where if the show came out today, I think it'd be received better. Even though, it has a high score, but I think that's more of the cult factor. It's my own theory behind that. But if it came out today with the same concept and same story beats, but changed up a lot of the elements to make the story, well, good. In my opinion, then I think we're definitely on to something that could be very good. I just don't think it got to that point because of its slow nature at the start where you don't really understand why. Then you get the answers. There's a lot of gap filling. A lot of things I've already said, and now I'm kind of repeating myself. But for my score, Tori, I'm kind of not really here or there on it. I don't think it's bad by any means, but I'm definitely on the below end of the spectrum of thinking it's good at all. So I'm kind of going with the 5 out of 10 here, the average.
The average. All right, fair enough. I mean, that's okay. You can be wrong.
I can be wrong.
I mean, like, I was definitely I was expecting more from the show. Absolutely. Considering like the praises I'd heard about this show, I was definitely prepared for this to be way higher quality than this. I understand like a lot of the hype around it, especially like with a lot of the people that worked on it. It was a very high profile show, being obviously spared by Madhouse, and like it was generally very well received. People really liked it, and people really wanted us to know back then that this is a show that should be watched. So I had high hopes, and I came out of it a little disappointed. But I still, like I said, I definitely understand why this won an award for Best Dramatic Presentation. I think the dramatic presentation at its best is really good. The way they build stuff, the way they sort of showcase it off, and the way they sort of build anticipation around things that happen, and the way they manage to have a really creepy entity without like being like too in your face or like doing anything drastic. They're kind of just there. And then, they occasionally interact with you, and then your cyber body goes out of play. And I mean, I think that's a cool concept to do, because the fact that, like, realistically speaking, and the show hammers that point down, is like, even if you get shot by Sachi, even if you get touched by it illegal, even if these things happen, like, yes, it affects your digital body, but like, you are fine. None of these things hurt you. You are not dying. These kids aren't in danger. They're not in any mortal danger. The only exception to that is the Dennou Dennou Coil, which is when the digibody separates. Where that's why I said that for some reason is treated more like your soul leaving your body rather than your digital self.
Very Ghost in the Shell,
which
there. Yeah,
very Ghost in the Shell. Yeah, probably definitely inspired by that. So yeah, but I give this show a 7. I think it's good. I definitely think it falls short of my expectations, but I still had a decent time with it.
Yeah, and for those wondering, we never really touched on it, but the creator and director of the show is Mitsuo Iso. He's a very prominent, like, key animation director throughout the industry. But this was his own work in creation, which kind of separates a lot of kind of interpreting his other work. I think his key animation, like, I thought the animation art was pretty fine by this. That was character art.
The animation is really good.
Yeah.
The animation I think is really good because, like, I mean, again, there's a lot of high profile animators on this show, and a lot of it is very simple, because it's not like they do a lot of crazy special effects all the time, or like a lot, but it's the nice thing. It's the little details, right? Like the walk cycles, the way their clothes move when they walk, for example, stuff like that. It's like there's a lot. When you look at it, there's a lot of attention to detail. Even though, again, the characters do look kind of derpy.
Characters are certainly derpy. But anyways, that was the end of this episode. We're kind of like I feel like we're on the same page of the show. I just
pretty much.
I just don't vibe with it. Is my take.
I definitely vibed with it more. I enjoyed the show more in that regard. But it's still like it still falls short of my expectations for it. Which, I mean, I guess that kind of just goes to shows like it is probably one of the shows that may have been overhyped a little bit for what it actually is, but I mean, I like the concept. I definitely think it's a very interesting concept.
Yeah. All right, our next episode is a Hickey pick. He has
Hopefully he'll be back.
Hopefully he'll be back for that one, but he chose Area 88, the TV show. We did the OVA on this podcast a while ago, and I find it interesting that now we're going to see, I think, the same concept in a 12-episode series. That'll be an interesting kind of compare and contrast episode there. Yep. All right, Tori. That's another episode of The Books. See you next time.
Peace.